One more thing. The Dallas Mavericks continue to find ways to win games in the playoffs. How do they keep doing it? And what will they do if Dereck Lively II is going to miss some time? Let's talk about all that and more right now.
I'm here because I have to be here.
Dallas is going to get a seat at the table.
That's it. It's me versus the machine. Don't let his lightness take away from his quickness.
You can rest later. You're young.
I never recovered here.
Wait. One more thing.
Yeah. Thanks for hanging out with me one more time. You're still locked on to the Dallas Mavericks. My name is Nick Angstadt, media member and your best friend covering the Dallas Mavericks for the Locked On Podcast Network. It's the One More Thing, where we're talking about one more thing about the Mavs versus the Timberwolves Game 3. The Mavs continue to find ways to win games, and there's a bunch of different ways they found, and I have a quote from Jason Kidd that I found really interesting. The Mavs, that there's a couple of things that really helped them to win this Game 3, to go up 3-0. We'll also talk about how Dereck Lively impacts this game, and if he is going to be out for Game 4, if there is a Game 5, if there is a Game 6, if there is a Game 7, if he's out for those, what do the Mavericks turn to? And so we'll talk about that, but let's start here. Let's get into the Mavs continue to find ways to win games. This is such a crucial thing that we talk about when it comes to NBA teams, and when it comes to a team that gets to this point, that has faced adversity, that has faced different lineups. When we went into the Thunder series, what did we bring up that was a big detractor for what the Mavericks were doing compared to what the Thunder were doing? The Thunder had played so many more possessions together as that five-man unit. They had played a ton of time with the five guys that start. The Mavericks had played a minuscule amount of time with the five guys that start, or their number one used lineup. The Mavericks have faced adversity in a bunch of different ways. They've played with a bunch of each other. They've played with different guys all in and out of the lineup because of injuries to Kyrie, to Luka, to Lively. The trades, they brought those guys in. They had to figure out how to play with them. They faced adversity in, the first round with Luka with the knee injuries. He's been facing that. They faced a bunch of different ways, a bunch of different looks, a bunch of different things. And since they faced all that together, they faced really lows where they, had that moment where their defense looks absolutely awful. They lose 5 of 6 games. Their defense just gets absolutely torn to shreds. They've had moments where they've been high, and the teams have needed to beat them, and the Mavs have been able to come in and get wins. Teams need to find different ways to win games. Teams will try to give the Mavs the corner threes like the Thunder did. The teams will try to take away corner threes like the Timberwolves are doing right now. You got to find different ways to win games, and this Mavericks team is doing exactly that. And Jason Kidd was asked about that and how this team continues to be so resilient, find different ways to win games. And I thought his answer was really interesting. I'm going to read it for you. I think it's just the trust. I think when you talk about that locker room, no matter who's on the floor, Hardy, PJ, D. Jones, Exum, Timmy, whoever's on the floor, they trust each other. And I think being able to have that trust, he talked about Derrick Jones Jr. with a turnover. We got to stop, and he threw it out of bounds, but they trust each other. And that's what the beauty of this group is, that they know that they can get one more stop. And that's kind of cool to see. I thought that was a really interesting quote from Jason Kidd because it's true. You've seen that. This team doesn't get too down when bad things happen, when a team makes them adjust, when a team like, the Timberwolves in the first couple of games, the Mavs don't hit a bunch of threes against them. The Mavs aren't getting the corner threes. And so all of a sudden they don't panic and go, man, that was our whole plan. That was our whole plan, was to get these corner threes. They don't panic. They find different ways. They find different avenues. They find a different way to win a game. And in this one, you even saw some adversity towards the end. Fourth quarter, 4 minutes, 11 seconds left in the game. Anthony Edwards gets a huge offensive rebound. Huge, massive offensive rebound. That could be a soul crusher where you go, oh, man, we almost finished this play, and Anthony Edwards just skies for this awesome offensive rebound. Gives the Timberwolves another shot. But they don't panic. They stay in it, and Dereck Jones Jr. forces Kyle Anderson into a disgusting-looking Dirk fadeaway, one-legged fade in the middle of the lane, and he misses it. A minute later, 3 minutes left in the game, Luka gets a travel on the turnover where his foot comes down. I do think it was a travel now looking back on it. And he gets the travel call. That could have been a call where they hang their heads. And how many times in the past have we seen this Mavericks team hang their heads when the call doesn't go their way and Luka's complaining about it, and all of a sudden they go back and they're not going back on defense? This team stays locked in. This team right now does not look at that turnover and say, oh, man, we got that turnover. Oh, we can't come back. We're tied. We can't figure out a way to win this game. Minute 52 left. Dereck Jones Jr. gets a rebound, and all of a sudden Anthony Edwards comes in there and rips the ball away from him, gets the steal. Luka and the whole rest of the team don't look at it and say, oh, man, we just lost the ball. Now we've got to panic and figure out what we're going to do next. They don't do that. Luka comes in and forces a jump ball. He goes in and gets the ball, and then the Mavs win the jump ball. Luka and Anthony Edwards were facing off for a jump ball. Who do you think would win that one? Ant got to the ball first, but the Mavs end up getting the ball, and the Mavs get that ball there at that point. And then Luka has another turnover with 1:30 left in this game, another bad pass. This team did not panic. All those different things that happened. They continued to go back to the things that worked for them. Kyrie got a huge shot. P.J. Washington got a huge three. Luka got a couple of huge shots. Daniel Gafford. Talk about adversity. Daniel Gafford comes in for the Dallas Mavericks, and all of a sudden it's like, oh, he's the next coming of this. He scores 19 points in his first game. He's catching all these lobs. Everything's great. And Dereck Lively loses his starting spot to him. And now Daniel Gafford is not getting the same amount of minutes that Dereck Lively had been getting. He didn't get down on himself. He didn't go, oh man, just not getting the amount of minutes that I was promised, or I'm a starter. I should be getting 30 minutes, or I should be doing this. He didn't get down on himself, and he made two massive plays at the end of this game. The block on Mike Conley, and then on the other end of the floor, the alley-oop and one with Rudy Gobert, fouling him at that point to get the and one. It's just some massive, huge, awesome plays. This team faces adversity, whether it's the individual with Gafford that I mentioned before, Luka with some of those mistakes, or the team as a whole where they don't give up on plays, they don't give up on defense. They go and continue to find ways to win games. This Mavs team also has not hit a bunch of threes in the first couple of games. And in this one, they did. The threes were open for them, and they went 14 of 28 from three in game 3 and only shot 10 of 17 at the rim. What have we talked about with this Mavs team this whole time? Oh, points in the paint. They've got to dominate the points in the paint. They don't have to. You can turn them into the three-point shooting team, and they'll find a way to do it. They'll find a way to get wins. They'll get the open threes. They'll take them. They'll knock them down. They'll find different ways to win games. If they don't get a lot of shots at the rim like they did in game 3, and 10 of 17 at the rim, by the way, that's not a lot of attempts. That's also not a lot of makes per the amount of attempts. It's a low percentage. Not very good. But it didn't matter. The Mavs found a way to win this game. They had less points in the paint than the Timberwolves. There's not any hard and fast rules for the Mavericks. Remember, in 2022, if you're proud of the Raccoon Squad, you've listened for a long time, you know that there were hard and fast rules when it came to the Mavericks. Isaac and I didn't care about the rebounding battle. Didn't matter at all. But what we did care about is the amount of threes they took and the amount of threes that they made. They lived and died by the three. There is nothing besides maybe Luka and Kyrie crunch time shots. There is nothing this Mavericks team lives and dies by. Not one singular stat. There is not one thing that I can look at and point out to you, oh, if the Mavs give up, more fast break points, they lose. It helps. There are things that help for sure, but there's nothing hard and fast for this team. The Mavs didn't get a ton of free throws in the first couple of games, and here, 26 of 31, and free throws in the third quarter by attacking and getting some nice calls that went the Mavs' way in the third quarter for sure. You got to admit that. As biased as you are about the Mavericks, baby, you've got to admit they got some calls that went their way in the third quarter. 14 of 17 from the free throw line in the third quarter kept them connected. They find other ways to win games. In the half court, the Mavs had 121.3 offensive rating. They're dominating in the half court against the best half court. It was one of the best half court defenses in the regular season and the best defense in the regular season, the Timberwolves. The Mavs find a way to win games. They found a way to win this one with hitting threes, hitting free throws, getting to the line, slowing it down, figuring out a way. They didn't have to get out in transition a bunch. They didn't even have that many transition points, if I remember. Yeah, the Mavs had 11 fast break points, which is a decent amount. The Timberwolves only had 4. They limited that for the Mavs. The Mavs only had 6 second chance points, so they weren't getting a ton of offensive rebounds and putting the ball back in the basket either. Timberwolves got more offensive rebounds. Timberwolves got more rebounds in general. Mavs only had 19 assists to 38 field goals made. Like, this team can find ways to win. That's my whole point in all of this. The Mavs find ways to win games. And I think that is the sign of a championship-level team, a team that can win a title, that can go into the next round, got to win one more, got to go to the champion, got to go to the finals and get there. But they found a bunch of ways to win because of what Jason Kidd said. They trust each other. This team trusts each other to continue to finish plays, to find ways to score, trust that we'll find a way to score at some point. There it is. That's how they do that. Coming up, let's talk about Dereck Lively. What do the Mavs do without him? What do they do if they're going to be without him for an extended period of time? We'll talk about that coming up. Today's episode is brought to you by eBay Motors. Passion, drive, patience is what keeps your ride or die alive and also keeps your team-winning basketball games, which we all love. eBay Motors is everything you need to maintain your vehicle. Level it up to peak performance with superchargers, roof racks, exhaust kits, LED headlights, and more. Whether you're into speed, power, or style, eBay Motors has you covered with over 122 million different parts to choose from. You'll always find exactly what you're looking for, and with eBay Guaranteed Fit, your part is guaranteed to fit your ride every time or your money back. Because with eBay Motors, you're burning rubber and not cash. Get all the parts you need at the prices you want. It's easy to make your car the MVP and bring home huge wins. Keep your ride or die alive at ebaymotors.com. Eligible items only. Exclusions apply. eBay Guaranteed Fit only available to U.S. customers. Yeah. Thanks for hanging out with me on the One More Thing on Locked On Mavs. Being part of this show, part of the Raccoon Squad, listening every day. If you want to subscribe to the subtext to get more content, more notes throughout the game, talk with me one-on-one, get texts from me straight to your phone, subscribe to the subtext. Click the link in the description or text the number in the description as well, 214-643-8637. It helps me to go on trips. It helps me to do extra stuff and all that kind of stuff. Appreciate each and every one of you that subscribe to the subtext. And tell me that in person. I love that too. I had a guy come up to me, hey man, I've been a subscriber to the subtext, been listening to you for 6 years. It's awesome. Love that. Dereck Lively. So this one hurts. This one hurts because he had been amazing in this series. Absolutely amazing. With 8:35 left in the second quarter, he's falling into the lane. Karl-Anthony Towns goes up for a rebound. Towns' knee collides with Dereck Lively, the back of Dereck Lively's head. Lively falls down. He's on the ground. He's holding his head, and he's down for a while. And that was tough. It was tough to see. It was tough to watch. It was tough to try and imagine, all right, is it a concussion? Immediately you start going through all the different injury names that you know, right? Like, is it a concussion? Is it this? Is it that? He's down for a while. Finally, he gets up. And when he gets up, he did not stand straight up strong and stand firm on his feet like this. I mean, he was swaying back and forth. He was wobbling back and forth. I had somebody that was close to courtside tell me I could see his eyes, and I could see that it didn't look like he was there, or didn't look like he knew necessarily where he was at that point. Now, that's just a visual from his eyes that's not coming from Dereck Lively himself. But now they're going to see what it is. Jason Kidd said afterwards, he can confirm that Mavs PR said it's a neck sprain, or neck strain, and we'll see what it is after that. He didn't say anything about concussion-like symptoms. The Mavs will definitely check to see if they're concussion-like symptoms, and we'll see on that. I'm not going to try to guess how long he's going to be out, or even if he's going to be out, but I think he will be out at least one more game because there's only 1 day off between these Western Conference Finals games, and so there's not a lot of time. And then they got to travel over to Minnesota, and so I think he'll be out for a Game 4. That would be my guess. I think he would be out for a Game 4. And so what do you do now? Because Lively had been so good. He had been sort of the key guy off the bench. He had been the key he was almost, in a weird way, he was what Maxey was in 2022. Maxey would come in. All of a sudden the team would change. All of a sudden the team would become something different. All of a sudden the team had an advantage. When Lively came in, the team had an advantage. They have him in the short roll, and they can break any trap. They can figure out any offense like that. They've got a guy that can rebound like crazy. They've got a guy that can defend in space. Changes their team. Lively comes in, and he completely changes what this Mavericks team can be. And so now, what the Mavericks have in the second half is kind of what they've got going for them now if Dereck Lively's going to be out. Gafford played 16 minutes in the second half, 16 out of 24, so it's a bunch. Dwight Powell played 5 minutes. They played about 2 or 3 minutes with P.J. Washington as the 5. I think that's something they'll experiment with a little bit more. But I think it's going to be a lot more on Daniel Gafford. What did he finish with, like 30 minutes, almost 29, 30 minutes in this game? He's going to be asked to play an extra shift. And so how does that change this Mavericks team? How do they play better? Gafford had some amazing things to close this game that I mentioned earlier. The massive block on Conley, the massive and one against Rudy Gobert. And so Daniel Gafford has proven that he can be productive in this series, although he was not as productive as Dereck Lively. It was just different. But Daniel Gafford's going to be asked to do these things, and he's going to be asked to do a lot more. The Mavs will have to rebound as a team a little bit more, and it kind of turns them into a little bit more of we've got to outscore our opponents to win. The defense is not as elite. The defense is not as versatile. The defense is not as potent if Dereck Lively is not going to be in this. You don't get 48 minutes of a Gafford and a Lively to throw out there. And I think that's one of the most important things. Is you look at that and you say, okay, well, Now, all of a sudden, it's changed our team a little bit. They've got the cushion of a 3-0 lead. They've got, 4 more opportunities to get one more win. I did the math right that time. For all you math checkers in the YouTube comment section, I did that math right. They got 4 more chances to win one more game. And so the team changes now if Dereck Lively is going to be out for any amount of time. Daniel Gafford's got to step up. I think you've got some of the role players have to step up. PJ as a rebounder, probably Derrick Jones Jr. as a rebounder. Luka as a rebounder probably has to step up without Dereck Lively. His extra offensive possessions that he gave this team were massive. And now you bring in Dwight Powell for some run, some kind of extra extended run. And I think that's what they'll probably do. I don't think that they'll go to a small ball lineup like they did at the end of this game. It just doesn't work, and it also completely takes away your advantage in any way. It takes away the advantage the Mavericks have had in playing big, in playing the defense they want to play. Their defense doesn't really work if you're funneling all the guys to Josh Green. If you're funneling guys to Luka Doncic under the rim. They can try, they can stand there, they can be the low man on defense, but it's a little bit tougher, and it changes what your team is. And offensively, they really haven't found their stride with that. They need a little bit more size on there. Maxey has been out for a while. He's supposed to be reevaluated soon. And so maybe this pushes his timeline up a little bit more, and maybe that changes some of it. And so if we could see Maxey back, that would help negate some of this, where at least you would have another big guy that could play with Gafford, without Gafford, with Powell, without Powell. That would be massive if Maxey could come back. If you lose Lively and you get Maxey, that's at least hurt. It doesn't hurt as badly. But if you're losing Lively and Maxey is out too, all of a sudden this team, man, you're without a bunch of your bigs. You're without 2 huge bigs for you. And I think that's gonna hurt for sure. But I think this team can survive it. They showed it at the end of this game. They showed it in the second half. Mavs won the second half 56-55. It was close, but they won the second half. As long as you keep it close, Luka and Kyrie can close the game. And I think that's the key right there. So without Dereck Lively, if they are without Dereck Lively, which we don't even know. I mean, I'm speculating at this point to know if he's going to be out for a game 4, but I think he will be. That's my guess. The team has enough to win another game. They can't go to the small ball like they would maybe want to. If Maxey comes back, that would really help. But the Lively injury does hurt them a lot. And so we'll see how they adjust. We'll see if they do any of the things that I say. And, there you go. Thanks for hanging out with me on the One More Thing. Appreciate you for listening to the show and hang out with me all the time. We'll be back with more. I'll do an episode tomorrow. We'll do another post-game show. Appreciate each and every one of you for checking this out and listening all the time.